And welcome back to another episode of Paris, Texas. Okay, let me just tell you one more time. The idea of this podcast is to interview people who live in Paris, Texas. Not necessarily from Paris, Texas, that live in Paris, Texas. Again, I'm just fascinated with the stories of people that are living with me in this small town, a town that I love dearly. So, as we're going to start with the same question. And the question is, are you Parisian or are you Parasite? Now, again, this is not to divide the two. This is more to bring them together. And it's also a catalyst to open up to a story. I feel like it's really hard to answer that question without going right into a story about your life, where you started at and how you got to where you kind of are now. So this week we have an awesome guest, a good friend of mine, Mr. Cody Head. What's up, Cody?
What's up?
Cody and I have been friends for a number of years now. He's a teacher at North Lamar, and we're just good friends. So we're gonna have a blast on this episode. And as always, Mr. Cody. Do I call you Mr. Cody?
Just Cody.
I mean,
Just
Cody's
Cody.
what I call him normally, but like I feel like all the kids.
We're not
probably...
in class.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Cody, are you a Parisian or are you a Parasite?
I am a Parisian.
Okay, good.
Born here, raised here. Actually born at McQuestion. Now it's Paris Regional Medical Center, but that's where I was born. Born in Cavaness, or raised in Cavaness, which is out there by Pat Mays Lake. Went to North Lamar my whole school career. But yeah, I'm a Parisian.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you think, side question, someone
No,
talked to me about
go.
this. Do you think there's a middle ground between Parisian and Parasite?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't even thought about that. I mean, how would that work if you...
So if somebody was born, said they were out of town, both their parents are from Paris, their home is in Paris, but they went on vacation to the beach, and mom had them in another place.
Yeah, I would think that would be a Parisian.
Right, because they still lived their
A
entire
Parisian,
life
maybe
here.
with like an asterisk,
Right.
in the record book or whatever you want to call it.
Or if they moved here, what if they moved here after being born, but it was only like 6 months to a year later? Is that crossing the line?
I think then you're a parasite.
I think you would be
Yeah,
a Parasite.
yeah.
Because I've had a few people that are really hardcore. They love Paris, Texas, but they hate being called a Parasite.
Sure.
But I don't feel like we're not
Well,
saying
I think it's
that you're
probably
not
in the pronunciation of it. It's if you just said I am a parasite
right.
as opposed to a parasite.
Correct.
There, that's where the challenge comes. I think people. I could say that I would have a problem being. I'm not a parasite. I didn't latch on, and I'm a parasite.
Correct. And I would agree with that 100% because we're not attacking whether or not you love your town or you are someone who is very invested in Paris, Texas. We're just trying to get the beginning of a story started.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. Awesome. I'm sorry, I just had that question in my head and I wanted to ask you that. So, I want to talk about dreams.
Okay.
Again, this is something I've been dreaming about for probably about a year. I've actually talked to Cody about this a number of times about wanting to do it. And he's encouraged me multiple times, just do it.
Yeah.
But I know enough of your story to know that you've chased a number of dreams in your life. Can you tell us about one of those?
Sure. When I left Paris, my plan was not to go into the arts. Originally, I played around with going to Texas A&M, joining the Corps, going in the medical field, and that was my thoughts. That's where my thoughts were. And then I actually went and auditioned for a scholarship at the University of North Texas, kind of on a whim, and encouraged by my local theater teacher at the high school, Laura Hutchings, and I actually got a scholarship to go to North Texas, and that was the moment that I was like, okay, I can do this, and I can get a scholarship for it, and so I went to North Texas. I graduated from there with a degree in theater and literature, and what's funny is I actually was hired to do a stunt show right out of college, to do a stunt show in St. Louis, Missouri. and that's where I went directly after college, and that fell through. I got there and they canceled the stunt show, so I got stuck in St. Louis, and it was at that point in my life where I was like, you know what, I made this crazy little move by myself. It was a little scary at first, but not really that scary. And I thought, if I'm going to do this, I might as well go for it. And so in my head and in my dreams all along through college was to go to New York. And it was that little jaunt to St. Louis, Missouri, that fell through, that I ended up being okay, and not, the job I went to take fell away, and I survived. I lived. I it wasn't crazy. So I thought, I can do this, and I went back home for a couple of months and raised a little bit of money, worked and saved some money, and then packed 2 suitcases, got on a plane, and moved to New York by myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was crazy. I've thought about this even in where I am right now, and thought, who was that guy? Who in the heck was that guy who was brave enough to get up and take 2 suitcases and move by themselves? Because I have times sometimes leaving the house, with
the same pair
afraid
of
of, exactly, yeah, like afraid of what, I don't know what's out the door. But that same, that kid that left and was so passionate and fearless, and it was really a fun time. And so I got to New York, and I actually lived there for 10 years. I did everything from I waited tables, but what I really got there and what got me there was theater. I did some acting there in the beginning of my time there, around Pittsburgh and Philadelphia area, and then in New York itself. And then I had live music. I was part of a couple of bands. I did a couple of solo projects, but then, like I said, I did everything from wait tables, bartend, to working for a publishing company. So I did a lot of things while I was there.
So when you got there, how did you meet people? Did you just start waiting tables and you met the right people?
Actually, so when I actually moved there, I kind of left this part of the story out. One of my professors in college, he was an artistic director for a theater in a little place called Warren, Pennsylvania. It's up near Erie, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. I've been to Erie, PA.
Yeah, this beautiful, especially in the summer, it was gorgeous. And this theater, probably the town was not any bigger than Paris,
mm-hmm.
and it was able to support this thriving equity theater where they would bring in New York actors, hire New York actors, and then they would use some of the local people as well. So it was like a community theater, but then they also worked with New York caliber actors. And my college professor was the artistic director there, and he hired me the summer before I graduated from college. So I had the opportunity to go as a college student and work professionally, get paid professionally, to work with these New York and Broadway caliber actors.
So you made some contacts.
I did.
Just in the process of doing that.
I did, and that's actually who I ended up living with first when I went to New York. Was a guy who was cast in that show. He had crazy enough had a roommate that had moved away on a show, needed a roommate, and I was able to go and live
Jump
in that
right
room.
in.
Yep.
Yeah.
It was pretty great.
Awesome, because I know, I've done a few adventures. Most people know I'm very heavily involved in video production, videography. I've done a few short films with some friends and stuff, but I know sometimes meeting those other creatives, even in a city the size of New York, sometimes can be very difficult, and that's the part of the scary part for someone who's new to it to jump in. They're like, how am I going to meet anybody in a city? It's crazy. A city, I don't even know how many people are in New York, but a city that big, and it's still hard to meet new people. Because what are you just going to stop someone on the side of the curb?
People do. People do.
And but that's awesome that you made contacts prior, and that's probably smart, is to try to make a few contacts before you move there, and then come in with a little bit of knowledge.
Yeah, and what was also crazy is, so I got there that year and worked for a few months at just waiting tables, waiting for another job to come up. and I auditioned and was able to go and work again at another summer stock theater company outside of Pittsburgh. And while I was there, I met a friend who actually graduated from SMU, or made a friend who graduated from SMU. And so when we went back to New York City, I had this huge collection of friends from SMU. So we were all Texas transplants. We were all,
awesome.
So this huge group, and that's actually how I came up with meeting the people that were in my band. We all were Texas transplants, and
like everybody on the band.
Everybody in the band except for the drummer. The drummer was from New Jersey, but other than that, everybody else was from Texas.
Odd man out.
Drummer. But it was really cool, and to have that artistic community, but also have that in common that we were from Texas. Kind of that common bond was neat.
So I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you, but I have a super funny story about New York, and I've probably told you this, but I want to tell everybody else this. So I was traveling with the motorcycle guy doing videography, and we were scheduled to be in New York for 3 days. We were going to have the 3 days off. We could go and visit friends and see the sights and just enjoy New York, but we got delayed, and which often happens on productions, but it was unforeseen setback, and we ended up only having like 14 hours in New York. But the 14 hours started at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So that meant a majority of the time was going to be the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we literally driving through there, I could see New York in the distance. New York City in the distance. And I was like, I can't be this close to New York and not go see New York. I just can't do that. So I convinced the bus driver, who's still to this day probably mad at me, because we traveled on a school bus chasing a motorcycle guy.
Yeah.
So he drove this school bus through the middle of New York City's. I actually was Staten Island.
Yeah.
And then I got a ferry over into Manhattan, and so he dropped me off at the ferry, and he was so mad because it's so tight. The streets are so tight, and the streets aren't really that great. They're very bumpy, and
they are.
For a school bus, that can't be a fun.
And the drivers are aggressive.
Very aggressive.
Yeah.
So I get on a ferry, and I'm driving. I end up getting to New York by like 10 o'clock that night. I literally didn't sleep a lick. Stayed up all night. I got one of those city bikes that you rent. You know, they're cheap. They're like $12.
Yeah.
But if you don't hang them up every 15 minutes, then you get charged extra. But I rode to every place I could go to see the sights, middle of the night.
Yeah.
I was literally Broadway on a bicycle riding down Broadway just to see the sights. It was the most incredible experience.
Too bad you couldn't have filmed it. That would have been a great little episode for yourself. Like
I had my camera and I tried, but it was really dark.
Hard, yeah.
I mean, well, if you're in Times Square, it's not dark, but everywhere else it got pretty dark. So it was really difficult to actually film myself. If it had been in the middle of the day, I could have handled it.
Yeah.
But it would have been epic if I'd sat back and tried to film the whole thing. Plus, I got tired it was like 5 a.m. and I was wiped sitting in a Starbucks waiting for. I didn't know the park.
Central Park
closes.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So I thought I could just I don't know why I thought I could just stroll into Central Park at 5 a.m. because that's probably scary.
It probably is. I mean, there are ways to get in there, but it could be scary to be in there.
There wasn't a very secure perimeter.
Yeah.
I just saw that there was a sign and a little chain that said closed until a certain time, and I was like,
enter at your own risk.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I could have stepped over the thing, but I was trying to obey the rules and make sure I wasn't caught in a situation that probably didn't be in.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, back to you. So you were there for 10 years.
Yes.
And then, so did you come home, or what was after that?
I mean, yes. After, I loved every moment that I was there. I did. It was amazing. It was awesome. But then there was a time when I was ready to come home.
Sorry, side note.
Yeah.
Side question.
Yeah.
What was the biggest achievement you did in New York while you were there for the 10 years?
I did some. It's hard to say one achievement that was the best. I think I'm most proud of some of the music that we wrote in
your band.
In the band, yeah. Just creatively speaking, to write your own music, perform your own music, get and I don't mean accolades or anything like that about the music, but to when you're creative, and you know this, when you're creative and you get that support from people, and you get that you get that feeling that you're doing something right, or you're on the right track, or you're connecting with people are understanding what you're trying to say, that can be such a reward, artistically and creatively speaking. And so some of the music that we wrote, I was just really proud of. Maybe it may have been birthed out of some hard times.
Well, a lot of music probably
and
is.
it was at the time it was pretty painful, but it was a great outlet to get some of that out, and get some of that those feelings and that emotion out. But it was satisfying. I mean, we were lucky enough to open twice actually, for Nora Jones.
Awesome.
And there was we opened for their old band. You may remember the Spin Doctors.
Yeah.
Spin Doctors. Yeah. They play at these little local places, and we were a good enough band that we were able to open for them a couple of times. So
you still have some CDs floating around?
I do. What's hilarious is my wife tried to throw some of them away just last night because we were remodeling the house, and she was like, "Can't you just download these?" I was like, "Yes, but this is my youth in a CD."
Kimmy gives us all memory boxes, so, and it's a certain size, and you can only fit what's in.
Okay, maybe that's what we need to.
And then so things that you feel like you need to hold on to, we have a memory box.
There you go.
The kids have a memory box. I have a memory box, and Kimmy has a memory box.
I need to get a big memory box.
A
well, because we bought 3,000 CDs, and so I still have 500 CDs at the house.
So have you ever wanted to let one sneak out and be played somewhere?
I mean, I have students
who ask
that have them because they've asked for them. Yeah, I'll give them to them. I mean, I'm not trying to sell them or anything.
I want one.
Okay, you can have one. Yeah, no problem.
Can I put it in a short film?
Sure.
I was looking for music the other day, and
oh my gosh, totally. Yeah.
Totally. Okay, done.
Yeah, awesome.
Okay, so 10 years, you decided you wanted to move back to Paris. Did you come right back to Paris?
I did. I moved back to Paris, and my initial goal, or what I thought my plan was going to be, I'd stop in Paris. I hadn't been close to family, visit them, but I hadn't been this close to family for 10 years. Well, actually, count more if you count college. But I got here, and I wanted to spend some time here so that I'd be with family, and then I was going to move to Austin. That was and teach and pursue music in Austin, music and theater.
I think you'd have fit well in Austin.
I would. I
Just
think
your
it would have been. Yeah,
personality
I think I would have. It was a place when I visited, I knew that I loved it. And but there were other plans. There was another plan for me, and it happened to be here.
Yeah, I understand that completely. So how long were you here? Oh wait, no, I know a story I want to go to.
Okay.
So what job did you get right when you got back to Paris, Texas?
So the getting here and not knowing where my footing was going to be, and I had my cousin who worked at the Flamingo Bingo Palace on North Main. He had gotten another job, and I wasn't looking for anything permanent. I was just looking for something, and I didn't want to wait tables. I didn't want to do anything. Bartend in Paris did not sound appealing to me. And this little opportunity came up to be the bingo caller at Flamingo Bingo, and I took it, and what an experience!
B16.
Yes, and it was wild. It was crazy. I met probably some. I mean, like I said, I'm from Paris, but I met some of the most interesting people in the city of Paris going to that bingo palace.
We should do a live.
Oh my gosh.
Podcast from bingo night.
Totally. And I would love it if you could mic every person in that building.
Yes.
You would have a lot of beeps and bleeps, I'm sure, because.
So when I found out about this the first time, we were in a meeting and this came up, and all I could remember thinking when you were telling the story is that on my side, it would make an amazing short film.
Yes.
But then I'd mention that to you, and you were like, actually, I want to make a script, not script, a screenplay out of it.
Yeah. We actually talked about making a musical out of it.
Oh, a musical.
Yeah.
That would be epic.
Yeah.
Like, you need to put a pin in that.
I know.
You need to be like Mr. Holland's Opus, and you need to start working on it, even if it takes you another 20 years to get it done. I don't know why, but I feel like that would be a fascinating story. Teacher who goes to New York before becoming a teacher, and then comes back and works at the bingo.
Yeah.
Flamingo Bingo. Is it still called Flamingo Bingo?
Flamingo Bingo, yeah.
And then ends up being a teacher.
But man, it's brilliant. And the crazy thing is that all of these people have these stories, and they're compelling. I mean, they come in there with their dreams and their hopes, and you know, I don't know, tonight I'm going to win that big prize, and they're so hopeful, and you know, it's drama. It's drama all in one setting every night, sometimes twice a day, because they have a morning session, or an afternoon session at like 2, and then an evening session at like 6.
So is it what a stereotypical bingo place is?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
When you see it on TV and it's a lot of elderly people,
Yes.
and they have like multiple colors
Oh,
and
yeah.
like
The stompers.
a Rambo vest of like different stompers they can pull out and
Yeah,
And what's
with like
the
20 cards laying in front of them, just going at it. Yeah.
So is that why they have different colors, to keep up with the different cards? Like, what's the deal with the different color stampers or stompers?
I think that's just their
Flair.
What they feel today. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel green today. Green's my lucky stamp number. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be honest. I didn't submerge myself completely in the bingo culture.
You just
I was just the caller for the most part.
yeah.
So
you just experienced it.
yes. But
Okay.
I had a lot of love coming my way, and I had a lot of hate coming my way as well.
because you didn't call that right number.
Exactly. And it's crazy. I mean, you're like, I have no control over.
Did
this
anybody ever try to
whatsoever.
bribe you?
No, but you know what's crazy is you did make tips. Like,
You could make a tip.
yes, if you called someone's number and they won $400, somebody'd slide you a 20 or a 10.
For for pulling out the
for
right.
pulling out a number. Yes.
That's crazy.
Hey, but when you're here working at Paris, Texas at the Flamingo Bingo Palace, you take that 10 and you're like, all right.
when this becomes a musical, I want to be there.
You got it.
I want to be involved.
You got it. Yes.
I want to. I can just be a side bingo person, or I don't know, an extra, but I want to be there.
I mean, the songs alone the titles of the songs alone are glorious. All having to do with bingo,
yeah,
bingo lingo. Hey,
bingo,
there you
bingo.
go.
Or they could all be bingo number. Like each title of the song is like B16.
Well, yeah, like before you leave. You know.
Oh, before
Yeah.
you leave. Oh, yes.
Yes.
That's hilarious. I love it. Okay, so how long? So you were at bingo for a little bit, a long time?
I mean, I think 3 or 4 months.
3 or 4
maybe
months.
6 months.
And then you transitioned into school?
School, yes. I already had my degree. I actually have double major in literature and theater arts. So
Okay.
I had my degree, but when I was in college, I didn't get my teaching certification because I wasn't going to be a teacher at that point. I was going to go to New York and and live the life that I lived. But when I came back, it was time. I was ready to teach, and I was fortunate that a position came open and that the administration at North Lamar allowed me to do alternative certification, so I could be a teacher while I got my certification. So I was
Awesome.
very
So-
fortunate.
Now, how long have you been a teacher for?
I'm going on 9 years.
9 years.
Yes.
Awesome. And you've gone to state a couple times? Region. Wait.
Well, I've gone to region several times. We got 4th in state last year.
Okay.
In one act play. Been to region 3 times. Gotten out of district, or we've never placed lower than 3rd place at district.
Okay.
We've stalled out at district by getting 3rd place twice since I've been here, but ever since then we've moved at least to area.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Side story again. Sorry, I know I keep butting into
No, go
your
for it.
story, but it involves you. Is my son first got to be under your directorial ship. I don't know how you say that. Last year in Big Fish,
Yes.
and he is bought in. Like
Yes.
he loves you. Like he thinks you're going to be at everything
awesome.
that it has anything to do with acting.
Yeah.
Is Mr. Craig going to be there?
Yes, I'll be around somewhere.
And B, like, to the point that we had to put him in acting classes because,
Yes.
like, he just, if you ask him, we interviewed him last time. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Yeah.
And he does YouTube videos, which I know you know.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time he goes to, like, a restaurant or somewhere else, I always ask him. I try to ask him on camera, but he doesn't always answer good enough for it to make the cut. But I was like, do you want to be a chef when you grow up? And he's like, no, right in front of the person that's a chef. I'm going to be an actor.
Yeah.
And so he's bought in. So, I mean, he's in he's going to be in second grade. So in another 4 or 5 years, you'll have a.
Hey, but we already have him. I mean,
True.
True.
Anytime you need a boy between his age frame, he will be there.
Yes.
All you have to do is I mean, I get he still needs to audition, but all you have to do is let him know and he'll show up.
I know.
Plus, I need him to break out of his shell. I know everybody thinks he's not shy, but he's very outgoing in front of the camera or even on the stage. Because I know, in my humble opinion, he's my son, but he did great in Big Fish.
Oh my gosh, yeah, totally.
With projecting
Yes.
and just, I mean, in front of 100+ people or more. How many?
But 600.
600 people, yeah.
4 to 600 depending on the night, yeah.
He said his lines. He was so adamant about memorizing his lines.
Mm-hmm.
I think his first day on the stage, he had every line memorized, which granted was only 3 or 4, but
hey, that's huge.
I would have
for
never
someone's
done that.
first time. I know, and that's the thing too. What the best thing about him in that production was not that he walked in and was perfect at the beginning. He took direction, and he would come back, and the next day, whatever we needed him to work on, he would have worked on,
Right.
and it showed up. Sometimes you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And you got this role, and awesome, and you kind of get what you got at audition.
Yep.
They were great at auditions, and that's pretty much what you get the rest of the show. That goes with the high schoolers and even to some degree some adults and professional actors. But that was what was exceptional about Liam.
he's great. I love him. Again, he's my son, so
I know you're partial, but
Yeah.
I can also
Vouch for him.
Vouch for him, yeah.
Now you've also done a few like community things, didn't you? Do Addams Family?
I was in the Addams Family, PCT, yes.
Yeah.
Several years before that, I did Into the Woods and a show called Doubt. I was in that production as well.
Do you space them out a little bit? Do you do like one, and then you wait a couple years and then do another? Is that kind of like your routine when it comes to extra?
Yeah, just especially now that my kids are little.
Yeah, it's hard.
Before the kids were around, I could probably do more, but now that the kids are...
And you got one that's old enough to kind of be in it with you.
Yeah. Well, Ella,
right.
Ella who's 16, or almost 16, and then Rex and Everett. Rex is 4, almost 4, and Everett is almost 2. So they're not quite there
Rex
yet.
is close.
He's close. He wants to be, especially, like Liam's around and he sees that, he wants to go do it.
Yeah, he wants to go do it with Liam. Yeah.
He doesn't care that Dad does that. He wants to do it because Liam does it.
Right. Yeah.
Whatever it takes. Hey,
That's
whatever
the trick.
It takes.
Maybe you'll put Liam in more things just so you get Rex to do it.
There you go. No joke. Like for real.
Oh, awesome. So, so you love Paris. You've been.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. And I've said this multiple times. There's so much that Paris has to offer. And especially in the creative world, I feel like there's some untapped resources.
Totally.
In the Paris community that people don't even know that we have. So it's just so good to know somebody in the creative world in the city that I can bounce ideas off of. We collaborate on multiple things all the times, and it's just been a blast. Anything else you want to add?
I mean, I think Paris is an exceptional town for several reasons, and creativity is one of them, and talent is another. Mm-hmm. The amount of talent that comes out of the students in this area is it blows me away, because you were talking about Big Fish and our musicals that we do in the fall. We do this competition with the Dallas Summer Musicals, the big, Broadway house in Dallas. And we enter that contest. And I mean, we're just a small town. We don't have the resources that they do in Dallas and the suburbs of Dallas. We don't have that. I mean, we have local support here, which is fantastic. But we're able to stand toe to toe with some of those big powerhouse schools, 5A and 6A schools that have a lot more resources, a lot more money, 5 directors, on staff, 2 or 3 voice teachers on staff. They have so much more than we have, and yet we are able to produce a caliber of product. Our students are able to match what those other kids do with the resources they have. We don't have that, and I just think that's one of the things that makes Paris so special to me, is the fact that we do have that, and that we have, for the most part, the support of the community that recognize that talent. They recognize the gift that we have in those kids, and the kids are our resource. The kids' creativity and talent is our resource, and I hope that we can find a way to utilize that even more, and to really make that something special that everybody sees about Paris, and not just us few in the creative world. That everybody sees that as a resource and uses that. That's one of the things that really draws me to Paris. It's someone that that saw me and saw the talent in me, and mined that out of me, that made me want to stay here. As opposed to like moving to Austin, to want to stay here and to do that for somebody else, to look at those kids and to see their potential and mine that. Someone did that for me, and my dream is to do that for somebody else.
And we talked about this just a little bit before we hit the record button, but in a lot of times it starts for these kids at a young age. I mean, they can get turned off early in life.
Oh, yeah.
To their creative potential. I felt growing up, and this is part of why I do the things I do now, I felt like I was my creative thoughts and interests were crushed through school. I did not feel like I could use or expound on my creative talents. I didn't even learn that I had creative talents until I left school and left Paris. And I just want to be, because I love Paris so much, I want to be an advocate for, if you have creative ability, let's come together, let's collaborate, let's figure out something we can do together and have fun with it. I'm very involved in video. Now I'm trying to get involved in podcasts. It's something I'm interested in. And social media is another, something that I do a lot and I help a lot of people with. But had I started in this direction when I was in high school and someone had mined that out of me, and I'm not blaming anyone at school or anything like that. If I had started 20 years ago doing this, I would be so much further along versus me having to go out and figure out what I was interested in at my late 20s, to be honest.
Sure.
And then... I just want to always be a resource.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a teacher, but I always want to be a resource. I was talking to another guy yesterday about this, for people to have, if they have questions, if they have thoughts, if they have ideas. Now, I can't say that I will do every idea that anybody ever comes to me with, because
you can't. That's an impossibility.
Yeah,
but if someone came to you and said, "Listen, I have this," you may not be able to do it, but you might be able to teach them.
Right.
To guide them
or direct them
in the direction they need to go in order to let them fulfill that dream or that project or that whatever it is. And
or if it's even given a resource, if they're like, I want to make a film,
I need a camera.
Yeah. I have backup cameras.
Yes.
Now I don't want to give that to everybody. I can't give it to everybody, but I can let you borrow a camera and try to make your film. I can give you lessons on how to utilize that camera and get the maximum amount of stuff out of that camera. I can even meet up with you and give you let you borrow my laptop and edit the whatever content is you're doing, or I can even teach you how to do it on your phone.
Yeah, Exactly.
Like,
I know.
this day and age, your phone can go a long ways. An iPhone is all you need. You have editing software at your fingertips. You have photography and videography at your fingertips.
Yeah.
You don't have to have, and this goes for multiple creative fields, you do not have to have the highest dollar equipment to make something.
Yeah.
You don't have, and this is what you've done in theater. You didn't have to have the budget that the Dallas schools have to make something great.
Yes.
You used what you had at your availability and still made it great.
Yeah.
And that's what kids can do. And I'm directing it more towards what I'm focused on, but like any creative outlet, there's always, honestly, you just need to do it. Just do it. That's how I learned everything I learned. I actually didn't go to college. It's not that I didn't get to go to college. I didn't go to college. I just started pushing buttons, and I was like, oh crap, that's the wrong button.
Yeah, yeah.
Put a little piece of tape over there. Don't
Not
push
this
that
one.
button,
Yes,
not
yeah.
that button. And then I figure out to the right button, and then YouTube. I mean, this day and age, YouTube is most people's college.
Yes, but you learned.
Oh yeah,
Through
I
YouTube.
love learning.
See, that's the thing. And as you talk about you and being in school and me as an educator, that's what hurts, or that's where the challenge is, I guess. Can you imagine? What if someone put a camera in your hand when you were in 8th grade, and said, "Hey, you're having trouble in math, or you're having trouble in English. Okay, well, take this math problem, and I want you to find a way to do a video that would explain this this
Exactly.
This equation, or do a documentary style or a commercial of this piece of literature, and showing us a trailer and showing us that you've read the piece, you understood it, but now take your creativity and make so then you dive in further because you're interested, something that interested you.
It's just me, yeah.
And you're hooked. I mean, I'm telling you, when it was me reading the Diary of Anne Frank that hooked me into literature and history, but it was through a play. It was not the actual Diary of Anne Frank, but it was the play, The Diary of Anne Frank, that I remember reading that, and it sparked something in me. There was a history lesson. It was written wonderfully as far as the way that the playwright wrote the play, and those two things captured me. So it was through creativity, it was through drama, it was through theater that it sparked an interest in learning. And I think that's one of the things that we miss out on. I use an analogy. I've heard it said in several different ways. I talk about when kids are in kindergarten, and the teachers say, "All right, so and so's birthday. I want everybody to sing Happy Birthday." How many kids, if you're watching them, do you ever see kids not sing when they're in kindergarten? No. Everyone are screaming to the top of their lungs. No one's ever told them you can't sing. You don't sing well. All that baggage is gone. They don't have it.
Yeah.
But then you go to 5th grade, and you have that same class sing Happy Birthday. Half of them are kicking their shoe around. You have one that's singing, belting, loud. All of a sudden, these kids have been told, you don't sing well, don't do this, can't do that. And they start
and even watching
judging.
TV. You
Yes.
watch TV and you're like, oh, I can't sing like
Yes.
Taylor Swift.
Yes.
So why would I even try?
Exactly. But we kind of educate the creativity out of kids.
Well, on the flip side of the coin
Sometimes.
the flip side of the coin is the kids out there, you also need to show that you're interested in something.
Yeah.
I was guilty of that. Like in high school, I didn't want to let anybody know anything about me. I was so like closed off, reclused, that I wasn't open to like trying to find that thing that I loved either.
Yeah.
So I'm afraid that if someone put a camera in my hand, I'd have had an attitude and been like, "What do you want me to do with this?
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this."
Well, you'd already shut off.
Yeah.
You'd already shut off.
But and again, it comes down to someone pulling, like you were talking about, pulling that interest out of me. Like, I know you're good at this. I've seen you post. Well, my day and age, our phones didn't take. Actually, I don't think they had phones. I think it was beepers.
Yeah.
Remember beepers?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
And the Cowboys would hide them behind their belt buckles so they wouldn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
So we didn't have the resources back then to take. I think we had 2 or 3 cameras, and they were all in the yearbooks class.
Sure.
And there's usually only 1 or 2 photographers.
Yeah.
For hundreds of kids. So there's no way that like someone that may not have been in that class to have that resource.
Yeah.
My parents didn't have cameras at home.
But there's a way. I still feel like we all, and this is just me. We'll continue to do this, is to find ways to reach kids and to get there. One more little story, and this is from I think it's from a TED Talk. I don't remember where I heard it.
I love TED Talks.
But it's amazing. But this is an educator, and he's talking about creativity in kids, and the kind of same thing I was saying. My analogy, his analogy was that teachers giving these kids paper and some crayons, and they're just drawing, guys just draw, and so they're kindergarten or first grade and they're drawing, and he or she sees this one child and they're so impassioned drawing, and walks up to the kid and says, what are you drawing there, Sally? And Sally says, I'm drawing a picture of God. And the teacher kind of smiles and says, really? Well, Sally, no one knows what God looks like. Sally says, they will in a minute. Just so sure and just so creative and driven, and I got this. If we could have that creativity and that self-confidence and find a way to pull that out of each kid, oh my gosh, what a world we would have.
And if you can build confidence in a young kid, I know I'm not confident. I'm something I struggle with.
Hey, I do too.
I've had people kind of say they think I'm very cocky.
Yeah.
But in reality, I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not. I'm very unsure of myself. I make my wife watch a video I make like 5 times to make sure that before I let anyone else see it, and then then I have to get another person to proof it, and then say I don't talk about this a lot, but I'm very dyslexic. I can't write an email without my wife checking it for me, because I'm very self-conscious of that. And same with text messages. I'll send a text message to my wife that's a reply to you to have her proof it before I even send it to you, unless it's a one-word reply. If it's just like yes, then I got that. But if it's a sentence, I'm so just, I don't know. I'm just so not confident. I'm worried that you're gonna think less of me.
Oh my gosh.
I'm saying you, but I'm saying like whoever.
General you.
Yeah, general you. Yeah. Whoever I'm texting, I'm worried that person's gonna think less of me. And in reality, we all have faults.
We all do that though. Everyone has to admit that there's something that they do, and if they don't, they're lying.
Yeah. And then I tag a couple emojis at the end of it, because I'm always...
Just to make sure you understand.
Well, and in addition to... Sorry, this is a whole separate subject. But in addition to, I don't want somebody to think... You can't put inflection on a text.
I know.
You can't put emotion in a text. So, like, I read it, I'm like, do I sound like a jerk?
Yeah.
Because that kind of sounds like a jerk.
Yeah.
I'll just add a couple emojis. It'll be fine.
Yeah, you'll understand. I'm joking.
That was sarcasm, like... or just like I'm smiling, or I'll put like 10 exclamation marks or something. Like I really try hard to make sure that like I'm not upset.
Yeah.
Because if you read that as upset, then I'm sorry, I apologize.
Yeah.
A bunch of emojis.
Yeah, exactly. No, I know.
So if you ever get a text with a whole bunch of emojis, I'm just trying
he's really worried that I didn't get what he was saying. Yeah.
The amount of emojis is the amount of how worried I am that you're gonna think that I'm saying something
That's
rude.
Hilarious. I've been there. Do the same thing.
Anyway. So, dude, it was great having you. This is the longest podcast I've ever recorded, so
awesome.
That just probably goes to show how much fun we have.
Yes.
And it's definitely a great conversation, and you'll probably end up coming back before I stop doing podcasts.
Heck yeah.
Thank you guys for listening. Again, just want to reiterate, what I use is called, the app that I use is called Anchor. I love this app. I'm not paid to say anything about this app. I'm not paid to say anything in this podcast. So if we mentioned anybody, I mean, they're more than welcome to sponsor us, but I'm not paid to say anything. We're just doing this for fun. But so the Anchor app, the way it works is I upload this podcast to the Anchor app. It's available both on iTunes podcast and Google Play podcasts. You can download the app Anchor for podcasts on both those platforms, and then you can search for Paris, Texas within that platform. So when I upload it to the Anchor podcast, then it disperses it to all the major podcast platforms. So it should eventually be available for iTunes podcasts, Google podcasts, Chromecast. There's like 15 or 18 of them out there that are available, but it takes time. It takes anywhere from 2 days to 2 weeks. Like some of them just have longer periods of which they accept you as a podcast. So if you can't find me, you will always be able to find me on the Anchor app. And hopefully as soon as they get some of those podcasts approved, they'll be on some of the other ones if you have a favorite podcast app. So just keep looking for us. I also started a Facebook group. It's called Paris, Texas, a podcast. You can search for that. It's an open group. And then you can follow. I'll give sneak peeks of who's coming up for the next podcast. We'll talk about if we ever have questions. I may do a Q&A podcast one day. I think that'd be a really exciting idea. And stuff like that. So you can always find us on Facebook. I'm on Facebook as I Am Broadway if you ever want to look me up. Cody is on Facebook. They also have a North Lamar Facebook. I follow that if you want to ever keep up with some of the plays. A North Lamar High School Theater. Is that what it's called?
NLHS Theater.
NLHS Theater. So that will follow like what plays they're doing, what's coming up next for them.
Workshops, auditions, yes.
You know, whether or not they make it to a state, regional, all of that stuff. It'll keep you up with that. So you can always follow him there if you want to. I'm shooting for next Monday. I'm going to post one every Monday for you guys to listen to. So make sure you come back next Monday. I'm going to not say the next guest because you never know what schedules, how they change and stuff like that, but I will let you know on the group who's the next guest. So go to the group on Facebook and you can see the next guest. Thank you guys so much. Peace.